Andrew Berry just said something about Shedeur Sanders that a lot of people weren't expecting to hear. And if you've been watching this situation unfold with the Browns, with Kevin Stefanski getting fired, with Jimmy Haslam making moves, with all the smoke around how this rookie quarterback was handled, what Andrew Berry just put on record changes the conversation. Because for months, we've been watching a situation that didn't look right. We've been watching a rookie quarterback get treated in a way that didn't match what we usually see with top draft picks. And now the general manager who drafted him is speaking publicly about his development, his progress, his future. But here's the thing. What he said sounds good on the surface. It sounds supportive. It sounds like a GM backing his pick. But when you line it up next to everything that actually happened this season, when you think about the reps Shedeur didn't get, the depth chart decisions that were made, the way this whole thing played out, it raises questions. Uncomfortable questions. Questions that don't have clean answers. And that's what we're getting into right now. Because this isn't just about what Andrew Berry said. It's about what it means in the context of everything we saw. It's about why Jimmy Haslam kept the GM but fired the head coach. It's about what happens next for a quarterback who was put in an impossible situation and somehow still found ways to win games. This is messy, this is uncomfortable, and we need to talk about it. Let's walk through what actually happened here. From what we've seen, from the timeline of events, from the way this played out publicly. Andrew Berry drafted Shedeur Sanders. That's his pick. That's his call. Jimmy Haslam made it clear early on that this was Andrew Berry's decision. The general manager identified Shedeur as the quarterback he wanted to bring into this organization. That matters. Because when a GM stakes his reputation on a draft pick, especially a quarterback, the expectation is that the organization rallies around that player. The expectation is that you give that player every possible chance to succeed. The expectation is that the development plan is clear, intentional, and focused. But that's not what we saw. What we saw was a rookie quarterback who didn't get first-team reps during the offseason. What we saw was a depth chart situation that never felt settled. What we saw was other quarterbacks getting opportunities before Shedeur, even though he was the draft pick, even though he was supposed to be the future. And listen, I'm not saying every rookie quarterback has to start week one. I'm not saying there shouldn't be competition. But when you draft a quarterback, when your GM publicly says, "This is our guy," when the owner is backing that decision, the process has to match the investment. And from what we've seen, it didn't. Shedeur Sanders showed up. He was patient. He waited his turn. He didn't complain publicly. He handled the situation with maturity that a lot of veterans don't have. And when he finally got his chance to play, when he finally got thrown into actual game situations, he went out there and beat Aaron Rodgers. He beat Joe Burrow, two future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, as a rookie with limited first-team reps on a Browns team that had been searching for quarterback stability for decades. Think about that for a second. A rookie quarterback who didn't get the typical preparation, who wasn't given the typical developmental runway, goes out and finds ways to win against elite competition. That's not luck. That's not a fluke. That's a player with real ability finding a way to perform under pressure. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, because if Shedeur Sanders showed he could compete at that level, if he showed he could win games against top-tier opponents, why wasn't he getting more opportunities earlier? Why did it feel like the coaching staff was hesitant to commit to him? Why did the process feel so off? And now, Kevin Stefanski is gone. The head coach is out. Jimmy Haslam made the move. And Andrew Berry is still here. The GM who drafted Shedeur is still running the front office. So what does that tell us? What does that mean for how this situation is being viewed internally? From what we've seen, from the way Jimmy Haslam talked about keeping Andrew Berry, it sounds like the owner sees value in the draft class. He specifically mentioned the personalities of the rookies. He talked about them being good people, good players, foundational pieces. He talked about the draft being one of the better drafts the Browns have had. And if you're Andrew Berry, if you're the GM who put that draft class together, that's validation. That's the owner saying you did your job well. But if the draft class was good, if the rookies were performing, if Shedeur Sanders was showing real ability, then why did the season feel so chaotic? Why did it feel like there was resistance to playing him? Why did it feel like the development plan wasn't aligned across the organization? This is where it gets messy, because you can't separate the GM's decisions from the head coach's execution. Andrew Berry drafted Shedeur Sanders. Kevin Stefanski was responsible for developing him, for putting him in position to succeed, for managing the quarterback room. And based on what we saw, based on how the season unfolded, it doesn't look like those two visions were aligned. It doesn't look like the plan that Andrew Berry had when he drafted Shedeur matched the way Kevin Stefanski was handling the quarterback situation. And now, one of them is gone. Let me be clear about something. This isn't about conspiracy theories. This isn't about claiming there was some intentional plan to hold Shedeur back or sabotage his development. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when you look at the timeline, when you look at the decisions that were made, when you look at how this rookie quarterback was handled compared to how top draft pick quarterbacks are typically handled, it raises questions. Uncomfortable questions. Questions about organizational alignment. Questions about whether everyone was on the same page. Questions about why a player who showed he could win games wasn't getting more opportunities sooner. Andrew Berry came out and spoke about Shedeur Sanders publicly, and what he said was mostly positive. He talked about seeing progress, both mentally and physically. He talked about Shedeur's accuracy, his ability to extend plays, his pocket management. He gave credit to the offensive staff for helping develop those skills. That all sounds good. That all sounds like a GM who believes in his draft pick. But then he also said something else. He said the quarterback situation still needs to be evaluated. He said they're going to do their work on the market. He said he can't confirm whether the solution at quarterback is internal or external. And that's where people started paying closer attention. Because if you believe in Shedeur Sanders, if you saw the same progress that Andrew Berry is talking about, if you saw him beat Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow as a rookie, why is there still uncertainty? Why are we talking about evaluating the market? Why isn't the message more definitive? Now, to be fair, Andrew Berry is the GM. He has to keep his options open. He can't publicly commit to a player just because he drafted him if there are legitimate questions about whether that player is ready to be the full-time starter. That's smart management. That's doing your job. But when you pair that uncertainty with everything that happened during the season, with the lack of first-team reps, with the way Shedeur had to wait for his opportunities, with the chaos around the quarterback depth chart, it creates a narrative. And that narrative is uncomfortable. Because here's what a lot of people are thinking. A lot of people are looking at this situation and wondering if Shedeur Sanders ever really got a fair shot. Not just in terms of playing time, but in terms of preparation. In terms of being set up for success. In terms of having the full support of the coaching staff from day one. And listen, I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody. I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders is perfect. He's a rookie. He has things he needs to work on. Andrew Berry acknowledged that. He said Shedeur is still a work in progress. That's fair. Every rookie quarterback is a work in progress. But the question isn't whether Shedeur needs to develop. The question is whether he was given the environment to develop properly. Think about how most top draft pick quarterbacks are handled. They get first-team reps in OTAs, they get first-team reps in training camp, they get preseason action with the starters. The offense is designed around their strengths. The coaching staff commits to their development. There's a clear plan. There's organizational alignment. Everyone is rowing in the same direction. From what we've seen, that's not what happened with Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. From what we've seen, it looked like there was hesitation. It looked like there was uncertainty about whether he was the guy, and that creates a really difficult situation for a rookie quarterback. Because you're not just trying to develop your skills. You're not just trying to learn the playbook. You're also trying to prove yourself in an environment where it feels like you're starting from behind. And somehow, despite all of that, Shedeur Sanders found a way to perform when he got his chances. Somehow, despite the lack of first-team reps, despite the uncertainty, despite the chaos, he went out there and won games. That says something about his mental toughness. That says something about his ability to handle pressure. That says something about who he is as a competitor. But it also raises the question, what could he have done if the situation had been different? What could he have shown if he'd gotten the typical developmental runway that top draft picks usually get? What would his rookie season have looked like if the coaching staff had committed to him from day one? We'll never know the answer to that, but we do know what happened. And what happened is that Kevin Stefanski is now gone, and Andrew Berry is still here. And the GM is talking about Shedeur Sanders in a way that sounds supportive, but also leaves the door open for other options. And that's where the story gets complicated. Jimmy Haslam made it clear why he kept Andrew Berry. He talked about the draft class. He talked about the free agency moves. He talked about the Malik Collins signing, the trade that brought in extra draft picks, the rookies who made all rookie teams. He talked about these players being good people, not just good players. He talked about them being foundational pieces for the future. And when you listen to Jimmy Haslam talk about that, it's clear he sees value in what Andrew Berry built. But here's the thing. If those rookies are foundational pieces, if Shedeur Sanders is part of that foundation, then what happened this season doesn't make sense. Because foundational quarterbacks get developed intentionally. Foundational quarterbacks get full organizational support. Foundational quarterbacks don't have to wonder if they're really the guy or if they're just competing for a spot. And maybe that's why Kevin Stefanski is gone. Maybe Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry looked at the situation and realized that the head coach wasn't executing the vision. Maybe they looked at how the quarterback room was managed and decided it wasn't working. Maybe they saw the same things that fans saw, the same hesitation, the same lack of commitment, and decided they needed a different voice leading the team. If that's the case, if that's what this move is about, then it makes sense. It means the organization is trying to course correct. It means they're trying to create a better environment for Shedeur Sanders to develop. It means they're trying to align everyone around the plan that Andrew Berry had when he drafted him. But we don't know if that's what this is. We don't know for sure. All we know is what we've seen, and what we've seen is a situation that felt off from the beginning. Let's talk about what happens next, because this is where it gets really interesting. Andrew Berry said they're going to evaluate the quarterback market. He said they're going to do their work on the position. He said he can't confirm whether the solution is internal or external. So, what does that mean for Shedeur Sanders? There are a few ways this could play out. The Browns could bring in another quarterback to compete. They could draft someone. They could sign a veteran. They could make a trade. And if they do that, Shedeur Sanders is going to have to compete for the job. But here's the thing. If they do bring in competition, Shedeur is going into that situation with an advantage he didn't have before. He has a full season of experience now. He has 7 games of real NFL action. He's seen the speed of the game. He's faced elite competition. He's been through the pressure. He knows what it takes to win in this league. And most importantly, Kevin Stefanski is gone. The coach who didn't seem fully committed to him, the coach who didn't give him first-team reps, the coach who managed the quarterback situation in a way that created chaos. That voice is no longer in the building. So whoever comes in as the new head coach, they're starting fresh. They don't have preconceived ideas about who Shedeur Sanders is or what he can do. They're going to evaluate him based on what he's shown, based on the film, based on his ability. And from what we've seen, Shedeur has shown enough to at least earn a real competition. A fair competition, the kind of competition he should have gotten from the start. And that's what a lot of people wanted all along. Not for Shedeur to be handed the job, not for him to be given something he didn't earn. Just for him to get a fair shot, a real opportunity to compete, a situation where the playing field is level and the best player wins the job. The question is whether that's what's going to happen. Because Andrew Berry's comments leave some uncertainty. He's keeping his options open. He's not committing to anything. And that could mean a lot of things. It could mean they're genuinely unsure about Shedeur's readiness. It could mean they want to see more. It could mean they're protecting themselves in case they need to make another move. It could mean they're just being smart about managing expectations. But it also creates pressure. Because if you're Shedeur Sanders, if you're sitting there listening to your GM talk about evaluating other options, you know you're not secure. You know you have to prove yourself all over again. You know that everything you did this season, all the wins, all the clutch moments, all the growth, it might not be enough. And that's a tough spot to be in, especially for a rookie who already had to deal with so much uncertainty during his first season. The fan reaction to all of this has been intense. Browns fans have been watching this situation closely. They saw what Shedeur Sanders did on the field. They saw him beat Aaron Rodgers. They saw him beat Joe Burrow. They saw him handle pressure and find ways to win. And a lot of them are frustrated because it feels like he didn't get the support he deserved. It feels like the organization didn't fully commit to him. It feels like there was resistance that didn't make sense. And now, with Kevin Stefanski gone and Andrew Berry still here, there's hope that things will change. There's hope that the new head coach will see Shedeur differently. There's hope that the organization will finally get on the same page and give this young quarterback the environment he needs to develop. But there's also anxiety, because Andrew Berry is still talking about evaluating options. He's still leaving the door open for other moves. And that makes people nervous, because here's the reality. Shedeur Sanders has the fan base behind him. He has players who respect him. He has coaches who have spoken positively about him. He has proven on the field in real games that he can compete at this level, but none of that matters if the organization doesn't fully believe in him. None of that matters if there's still doubt at the top about whether he's the answer. And that's the uncomfortable part of this whole situation. Because we don't know what Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam are really thinking. We don't know if they see Shedeur Sanders as the franchise quarterback or just a guy who's competing for the job. We don't know if Kevin Stefanski getting fired means they're going all in on Shedeur's development, or if it just means they wanted a fresh start with the coaching staff. What we do know is that Shedeur Sanders was put in a difficult situation and handled it with more maturity and toughness than most people expected. We know he showed flashes of real ability. We know he won games. We know he earned respect. And we know that the way he was treated during his rookie season didn't match the way most top draft pick quarterbacks are treated. So now the question is, what comes next? Does the new head coach commit to developing Shedeur? Does Andrew Berry bring in real competition? Or does he give Shedeur the keys? Does the organization finally align around a clear plan for the quarterback position? Or does this uncertainty continue into next season? We don't have answers yet, and that's the frustrating part, because this situation has been messy from the start, and it's still messy now. Andrew Berry saying positive things about Shedeur Sanders is good, but it's not enough. Not after everything that happened. Not after the lack of first-team reps. Not after the way this rookie season unfolded. What Shedeur Sanders needs is clarity. He needs to know that the organization believes in him. He needs to know that he's going to get a fair shot to compete. He needs to know that the plan for his development is real and intentional. And based on what Andrew Berry said, based on how Jimmy Haslam talked about the situation, we're not quite there yet. This isn't over. This story is still playing out. And the next few months are going to tell us a lot about what the Browns really think about Shedeur Sanders and what kind of future he has in Cleveland. Because right now, it's all still uncertain. And that's exactly where we are.